So my name is Sara Gunnarsdóttir and I'm an Icelandic animation director. And I currently am working on a show with CD Projekt Red and Netflix. I discovered animation that I loved kind of late, like in my early 20s. I was never a kid or a teenager who was really into animation. I always loved to draw, so I took BFA in fine art in Iceland. But kind of knew when I was in school there that I also didn't belong in the fine art world. I just didn't quite understand it. And then I think I was like 20 years old or something, and I was in a museum in London, and I bought VHS tapes of the work of Pridparn and the work of Jens Svankmajer. And I think that I had never seen anything like that before. It didn't look like the Saturday morning cartoons that I did not care for. I think that opened up a world of like, oh, like I love film. I don't think I ever saw myself as a director because I am very shy, and like even more so when I was younger. So making animation, it combined filmmaking and drawing, which I both loved, and I don't know, it clicked. But yeah, I just didn't realize that animation could be so cool before I saw something that was different. I think animation can be so powerful and beautiful and like a very unique language. For me to kind of not even like realizing it or seeing it until I was in my early 20s, but it's really strange to me how the mainstream animation became this kind of really flat, one-sided thing that did not interest me at all, when in fact that this is a very rich, very unique, powerful art. I love live action films, but animation can be just as highbrow and powerful, and it's fine art, you know. Animation absolutely can't be fine art. Yeah. I think it can be abstract in a way that you can't, obviously, with live action. I think to me, you know, it's all filmmaking, but I feel like if we think about it as literature or something, I think in the world of filmmaking, animation is the poetry. And it can be so visceral, and it can touch you in a way that is very kind of unique, and I guess like poetry, you know, in an abstract way, but it can be super powerful. On my last year, I took a course in the graphic design department where they were teaching After Effects. And I think that was my first kind of me trying to move drawings and realizing that there's this program that can help me do that. After graduating, I moved to Denmark, and I was working in a kitchen for a year and a half. And I think slowly realizing, always playing with After Effects a little bit, and realizing, okay, I want to go learn this. This is something I love, and I want to do this. I'm very glad that I went to study experimental animation in California, a master's degree in experimental animation at CalArts. It's a great program because you are encouraged to explore the medium, and just kind of knowing that they also have the character animation program where you're very much learning a trade of how to do things from A to B, and how to, like, very specific way of how to draw and how to move things. And, you know, it's like you're making worker ants for the big studios. But I feel like when you do that, you kind of kill the art of the drawing, you know, the joy of it, the beauty of it. That's why I loved this experimental program was perfect for me, because the way the program is set up is that you do your first year, it's 3 years, and you do a first year short, a very short piece on the first year to kind of maybe find your way and then you make a thesis film in the next 2 years. And it's not like many other animation schools where the students are teaming up to work on a film together. Everybody's just kind of making their own thing. It's a lot of work, but you're really making something that's yours, and you're finding a language and you're finding a voice, a unique voice with animation. Like if you were a painter or a fine artist, That's the kind of animation that fires me up. I moved back to Iceland actually and got a job in the film industry in Iceland. And I was very lucky to start working in the film industry because it was a very, very valuable school. I was just a crew member. I was working like in the costumes and props and production assistants. So from there I went to study animation, and it really feels like me working as a crew member in the film industry was like the first step of learning filmmaking. I feel like I know every process and I know every part of the journey, and that's very valuable as a director. So it came in very handy to kind of understand the process. So I'm still, I'm shooting actors, because for me, to see beauty and technique in moving a character and being very just good at the movement, and that is beautiful, but I feel like that is just one tiny part of a film that's a whole, and I'm much more interested in the big picture. So I think it was obvious for me to just do the shortcut of shooting references. So my work is very rotoscope based. I've always shot myself and my husband for references for everything. So everything is very reference based, because I feel like I don't want to spend too much time and energy in figuring out the movement. I want the movement to be the easy part, and then you can really focus on the animation, the color and the light and like everything else. And then you just have this very kind of strong, solid foundation if you have references, and then it doesn't still mean that the animation can't be surprising. For example, what we're doing now, I just shot all the actors in my house with a phone because it doesn't need to be fancy. I'm not recording the sound. And then I get the actors into a studio to do the voiceovers. So for me, what comes first is shooting all the reference, all the acting. And also I think it's super valuable to get the input of actors to a story. I think their work is important, and also in animation. But sometimes I feel like a lot of the time in animation, the actors the animators act as the actor. And then the last thing they do is the voiceover. And it feels like an afterthought a little bit. But I think acting is very important to tell an emotional story. And then editing it, and once I have a really solid edit and I can see the story, we go into the sound studio to record the voices. Then you can go to the animator and say, okay, we have this very strong foundation. How can we make it even stronger? Because now the animator doesn't have to be the actor, he just has to be the artist.
Dumbass put the exact same apology note in both their lockers. They're best friends. God, what an idiot.
To me, I'm really interested in pulling animation more towards that language of live action film, but it can be more. So we're all getting so good at reading films, right? We're so used to watching films in the language of films. And that's another thing that really is helpful when you are shooting actors. It automatically helps you just use the language of and the cinematography of live action films. And I think it can be very helpful in telling stories. So I think I would have probably, as a young person, loved to be a live action filmmaker and a director, but never really occurred to me as an option because of being frightened of other people and not having kind of believe in myself, but knowing and believing in my ability to draw, and then slowly making films on my own, drawing every frame, makes your confidence grow. And then 15 years later, I now own a studio and I'm directing a team of people, which back 15, 20 years ago, I would never have thought possible. The very first animation job I had was very shortly after graduating, and I was put in contact with Mariel Heller, who was working on a movie called The Diary of a Teenage Girl, a feature film. And this was her first film, and I had never worked in animation. I had never been commissioned to do any animation, but it was a huge project, and I worked with her on it for 2 years. And I did it because this is something that I really want to do, and I recognized this as an opportunity. But I did it for almost nothing. And I'm very proud of this project because I almost did all of it single-handedly. I had, for 4 months, one animator help me, which at point I had tennis elbows on both of my arms. I was still kind of young and I was coming out of school, and Mari wanted to hire me for this, and I was just thinking, I can do this on my own. And, you know, I couldn't. It was a mountain, like it was massive, and I broke my body trying to do it. But I did it, I finished it. But it was also a valuable lesson that, you know, it's not enough to want, or, you know, to want to be able to make it and think that you can just do everything on your own. You can't. But then I got another opportunity back in COVID in 2020. That's when my first opportunity to really direct a whole piece. And I realized that, you know, I was again, okay, now I'm probably in over my head. I don't know if I can do this, but I want to say, like, I want to, so I'm just gonna say to FX Network that I can without really knowing if I can. And it was so hard. I was so scared and I was so stressed out. This was all happening through my own company, and I was very aware that I was taking a huge amount of money from an American corporation, and I thought, you know, maybe this will just fall apart, and maybe I'll have to give them back the money, and I can't do that. I think that there was no need to be so stressed, really, but I came out of it kind of like I had a breakdown. And it was the first time after all this time of struggling to kind of make my way in animation and be an animation professional. It was the first time that I thought maybe I should find something else to do. I don't know if I can do this. Because I thought, oh, maybe like every time you take on, it's gonna break you, you know. Then it went very well. We were nominated for an Oscar, and we had a beautiful festival run, and it was very rewarding. I mean, yeah, I recognize this as a huge opportunity. It was actually the path of that project, My Year of Dicks, was very unusual. At the time, FX Network had this program on called Cake, and it was kind of like, it was a little bit FX Network, kind of like having a little bit of a experimental lab, and then maybe something could come out of it that they could develop. But when we were about to just finish, FX Network canceled Cake. And all our hard work was gonna just go in a drawer at FX Network and never be seen. So me and Jeanette and Pamela, who were producing this, asked permission to go at least take it to the festivals, you know. And they did. They were actually pretty supportive. Okay, can we continue the festival run and presented as a short film. Because we were really sad that it was cut up. We saw it as a whole piece, and Cake was going to cut it up into 5 chapters. So I cut it together as a one film, put the chapters in between, and we thought, oh, maybe we won't do as well as that is in the festivals as a short, because the animated short film space is so much stronger than what's really being made in TV. There's this wonderful man called Benoit, and he wanted to work with us. And he said, you know, I think you should try to take this to the Oscars. So we applied for that. FX Network agreed. And that was really the best outcome that could have possibly happened to us. Much better than this being showed cut up on FX Network. I mean, it was much better ending for us to go to the Oscars, you know. I think once a film is done and finished and you are ready to let it go, I am then okay with it, no matter what happens. You know, I can stand behind it. So I think, you know, it's so nice to get good criticism. But then, you know, if somebody doesn't like it, not everybody's gonna like it. But the important criticism is while you're making something. If you're part of a good team where there's trust, criticism can be awesome. No, it hurts. It hurts when people hate what you do, of course. But yeah, what can you do? I don't know so much about the funding system. I've never really used it. I've really kind of just lived in this independent space, film space in America. But I have a feeling that that maybe the funding, the film funds are a little bit stagnant, and they're not really funding so much experimental filmmaking. There's a recipe. You have to go through so many loops, and like you have to have so many people stamping the approval, and I think it's not helping when it comes to innovation and making something new. It might actually, you know, I think there's the richness of independent animation is just as much in America as it is in Europe, I think. There's a lot of independent animation being made in America, and people are making it because they want to make it, and they're just funding it like they're making it for nothing, you know what I mean? They're just making it on their own. I think the film funds could be more risk-taking. I wish they were. It's all filmmaking, you know, and there is no right way to do anything, you know. You can do whatever you want, really.